Thank you so much, Ujjwala. Neha, what a wonderful keynote that was. Thanks for bringing out everything that 2020 was and also bringing out what some of the organizations are doing, but more importantly, what a true joy it has been to see the evolution of Jobs for Her and how Jobs for Her has created a platform where every single day you shatter stereotypes. Thank you so much for encouraging all of us. Now, like you mentioned, 2020 was a year to remember, and for way too many reasons under the sun. Whether it was the economic inequities, segregation and its impacts on various minority communities, or simply the vulnerabilities that we all experienced or witnessed. Gender equity was a fight that was being fought for a while, and when it just seemed like we were making some progress, the pandemic toppled the balance altogether. We all know that women were disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, and it wasn't really a surprise because most of the industries that were severely impacted by the aftermath of COVID-19 were overrepresented by women. Domestic health, childcare service providers, hospitality, tourism, aviation, the overall service sector. Even job cuts and losses hit women harder than men. As per McKinsey's report, women make up to 39% of global employment, but account for 54% of the overall job losses. Overall employment numbers in India indicate that the number of women who lost jobs during COVID was higher as a percentage than that of their male counterparts. The magnitude of this inequality is striking. A survey conducted across India and US estimates that female job losses owing to COVID is 1.8 times higher than male job losses. Before the pandemic, economic precarity was already a reality for women. Long-standing gender biases and inequalities ensued persistent wage gaps, which also plays a huge role on why many women take part as primary caregiver for their families. And this burden became unsurmountable during COVID with lack of child and elderly care and working from home. A survey conducted across the globe revealed this. Women work for 312 minutes on unpaid work as compared to just 29 minutes for men. The tumultuous year of 2020 may be over, but the coronavirus pandemic and the significant impact it has left on us to deal with is now a reality. But the good news is that there are some people, communities, and organizations who rose to the occasion, and we are so glad to have some of those people with us today. Let me introduce you to our panelists. First of all, Priti Singh, Senior Vice President, Human Resources, Mastercard. Anil Santapuri, Director, Learning and Development, CGI. Sain Chatterjee, HR Director, Beam Suntory. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining us. And let's start with a question I think that is most relevant to answer today. Can you share one experience which defined the realities of 2020? Anything that shaped your views or shook your views of the world in 2020? Preeti, let's start with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Surabhi, and thank you, Jobs for Her, for inviting me. And I echo, Surabhi, what you said. What a great introduction to the session today, this morning, Neha. Totally privileged to be part of this event. COVID-19 was certainly an unprecedented black swan world event, an unimaginable reality. Nothing can be said. Absolutely, there was no playbook for us to anyone to refer that what to deal with, how to deal with it, right? Our greatest humanitarian and geopolitical crisis, virtually nobody has escaped unscathed. For us, I mean, COVID-19 made it apparent that we are living in a deeply interconnected world. What affects one affects us all. And we have to make sure that we are striking the right balance across the needs and the challenges. One versus many, which means inclusion, right? Humanity versus nature. So we have to really focus on environmental sustainability, short-term versus long-term. How do we really manage the businesses? But from an HR perspective, because that's where my domain is, from a corporate world perspective, what we learned was that the agility, resilience, the borderless talent, the future of work has changed altogether, from hierarchy to holacracy, from role to marketplace, FTE to gig, from physical to virtual, centralized to decentralized, from work to be more outcome driven rather than where you're seated and more digital. And that created a lot more opportunity for us to go ahead and hire more women from in the workforce, and we launched, I'm sure one of my colleagues during the day will talk about our Relaunch Your Career program and Women Returnship program, that how successfully we were able to really onboard the women in tech, um, because they were working out of home. It was like a borderless challenge. We didn't have to really look at them in Pune, Vadodara, Mumbai, Gurgaon, wherever they were, and we continue with that. So, Surabhi, that's my take on this piece.
Priti, I would like to ask you, psychology and psychological safety was something that was, I think, in the recent past, last year, I think these were the buzzwords, well-being, wellness, all of these were suddenly buzzwords because we realized how important they are for our lives if we had to survive a pandemic like this. And I know Mastercard has done quite a few things. Would you want to share a few of the practices that Mastercard had to build around the psychological safety of its people?
Thank you, Surabhi. Yes, indeed. So the whole concept of wellness, which was kind of pre-COVID, has moved to well-being, because well-being kind of focuses on, the wider aspects, right? Which could be your physical, emotional, social, and financial well-being. We at Mastercard, when the pandemic hit us, we did commit to our associates for their personal and professional growth. That helps bringing them with their authentic self to work, whether it was working moms, working dads, working with home, working from home. We had to really deal with it. And as you just mentioned a short while ago, that the work from home concept is around, and hopefully the hybrid working schedules will be still around. So the wellness, where the employees are still working from home and with home, is something that kind of drove us to think that how could we drive it differently. We introduced a concept called Whole You, which offers the flexibility and choice to meet the need of the individuals. And just so that you know, Mastercard has about 85% of millennials as workforce. We have about 4,000 employees across the country and in South Asia region. And we recognize that each individual employee has a different life stage requirements personally and professionally. So a cookie cutter approach may not be really relevant for it. We talk about the well-being. A young independent professional is looking for a career growth, right? A new dad, new mom, working mom, need more flexibility, which was there prior to COVID as well, but they need a different kind of environment that is much more supporting them. Mid-career, senior career professional would have a different requirement. Talking specifically about the well-being focus, that we kind of did do an overhaul, from a physical perspective, that the long hours, we recognize that it will continue to be there, and that could lead to really stressful situations. But people, well, the office and the work was kind of merging, and we know that many organizations have provided allowances to employees to set up the ergonomical offices at home, workspaces as well. Mastercard has done something similar. We have put in place a strategy that allows the physical movement and activities, like virtual yoga, dance, celebratory events. We leverage tools. We are a fintech organization, so we leverage the technology platforms like MS Teams to do Zumba, yoga, celebratory events. People were having, especially the youngsters, were having parties in the evening, and they were like having DJ nights. So that was the physical stuff that we kind of, the physical exercise and movements we were looking at. The other piece around the well-being we kind of looked at was the emotional, right? So there was a need, we realized that was the need to implement plans to help people manage their anxiety. That was leading to the stress. The mental wellness came as one of the very important topics during the COVID, whether it was men and women, and more so for women, because they were managing the work, the kids, the family, and then the family, elder care, and then work as well. So what we started doing was that we provided, starting looking at the mindfulness programs. Of course, we have employee assistance program, the family, we extended to the not only the employees, but the family members. So they're like elders in the family who could really take help from the psychiatrist or a physician or anything that could help them. And there was like emotional support. But at the same time, we were also very early adopters of the apps and the tools. We kind of have apps that are available on our employees' mobile phone, which is Virgin Plus, Thrive, that offer assistance to other employees for their physical, mental, virtual consultation with the medical practitioner. And the way that we kind of wanted to structure, because it also is a taboo still, like it or not, in our current society, mental well-being. If somebody says that I'm having a situation that needs addressed, that could be a taboo. So we kind of address that need by having people to have that confidential conversation. We told them that HR doesn't want to know. speak to your family, take your comfort zones. We'll be more than happy to support you. Social well-being, social component of well-being strategy was something which was very less spoken about in the past. Pandemic limited everybody's social interactions, and mandatory social distancing rules employees need to really exercise the social distances were actually limiting for the healthy interactions. So what we started looking was, again, we came up with the collaborative tools to increase communication and boost employee office morals. And these were like certainly much more advanced in our technology. Last but not the least was around the financial well-being, the financial stress, because one of the things that COVID really pushed us to really think about were, and there were news all over, people were laying off, formal information there. So our global CEO kind of, the first thing that he did was he made an announcement during COVID, during pandemic, none of our employees will lose their jobs. So this is something that we kind of put in place. We also ran some of the programs that was constantly running communication around tips to manage finances, session to employees to help invest in the right avenues, and transparent about how the business is progressing, showing that as an organization as Mastercard, we really were doing financially well because we're a fintech organization. Not many people were traveling, not people were eating out. So for us, for a utilization of our product, which is the network wasn't there. So we started showing them that we are financially very stable. Talking specifically about Mastercard and the wellness, I think what is more important for us, and I'll just take 60 seconds more in the interest of time, that for us, it was very, very important during this phase as well, the gender equity in the workforce. Women at Mastercard, we had to really make those course corrections that women at Mastercard earn $1 to every $1 man earn. So even this was rolled out globally. That kind of helped our women to really gain that confidence that, yeah, Mastercard is here, their financial stability, their future of career, their employment is very well secured. We moved during pandemic to 40% of Mastercard's global workforce are women. And our aspiration is by 2020, we would like to have 50-50, or 50% of women and 50% of men across the organization. It's a long way to go, but we are really committed to that objective. Thank you, Surabhi, for this question.
Most welcome and pleasure to hear some of the practices. I mean, when you were saying that $1 for what a man earns to $1 what a woman earns, that's far from what the worldwide economic reality for women is. So thanks for leading the way in that matter. Thank you so much, Priti.